Greetings and welcome back. How's everybody doing? My name is Johny the Greek. This is IDP Bets. It is week 3. Hope you guys had a good week 2. We have a very special guest for everyone tonight. If you guys watched the show last year, you are very familiar with him. He is at Down with IDP on Twitter. It is Justin Varnes of FantasyPoints.com, their lead IDP analyst. He had a 64% win rate on his IDP props last season, which is absolutely spectacular. Justin, how are you, sir?
JTG, I'm doing well, man. Good to see you. Glad to be back. Glad we got some props to talk about, which is nice heading into week 3. We've seen a little bit of stability. It's always so much better when we have fresh data, like getting a couple weeks into the season. We see some defensive coordinator, some scheme changes, some player changes, all the prognosticating before week 1 of where we think people are going to play and how many snaps. And then week 1 comes and we tear all that up and start over. So anyway, I'm feeling much better this week first couple of weeks did fine. 2-1 the first week, 2-2 the second week. I always barely dip my toe in the pool his first 2 weeks because of that. So, but really excited about these and looking forward to cutting this up with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And just like I'm with you on that completely. It's Scott Bogman actually week 1 had a great analogy for this. Your bets should be like a tree. Start skinny and get fuller as the year goes on. I thought that was
Amen.
a fantastic analogy.
Yeah.
Uh, so we got some good ones for you this week. Before we get into it, just a quick reminder: these are not even suggestions. We are just discussing the bets that we will be making personally. Set a limit and stick to it. For help with problem gambling, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. Transparency for last week: Zaire Franklin actually might be dead. That was a joke last week, but he might be. He's dead to me, that's for sure. Patrick, though, was 3-0 in tackle props, perfect as is tradition. I was 1-2, mostly thanks to Mr. Franklin. And our bonus bets did not work out last week, but that's okay. This show is, partly the picks and mostly the thought process and the different factors that we want to look at to help you make your own bets, teach a person to fish instead of give them a fish, etc. With that being said, let's get into it. It is week 3. We've got some IDP bets. Mr. Varnes, what's your first favorite bet for week 3?
I'm going to go with Atlanta safety rookie Xavier Watts. He's playing Carolina this week. He came in at over 5.5 combined tackles with a plus 120 line at Bet 365. I really like this. And the same thing with the next bet that I'll go to, based on just kind of how weird, in particular, the last Falcons game was against the Vikings, where I swear to God, nobody wanted to win that game nor score points. So we saw some really weird IDP output there. Xavier Watts, he's playing a good amount of box and slot snaps. He's still playing maybe a little bit more free safety than I would like. He's like 60-40. I'd love to see that get to 65-35 or 70-30. Obviously, that would be ideal. But nonetheless, I just think in this matchup, I think Carolina's offense is a little bit better than people were thinking. And obviously Atlanta's defense is great. But they also have benefited, in particular last week against a Minnesota offense. JJ McCarthy, rookie, well, not technically a rookie, but he's a very young starter, also hobbled with an ankle injury. So I'm expecting him to he had 2 tackles last week, and I think that helped pull his line down from maybe 6.5 to 5.5, and particularly with that plus odds, I like it. I have him going about 6.5 or 7 tackles this week, and particularly in this divisional matchup at home for Carolina. I think Watts is going to be active.
I love this. I've actually got Bates for one of mine we'll talk about later for a lot of the same reasoning. And if you look at the games last year, the Carolina-Atlanta games, they were both shootouts with lots of action. So, yeah, I like this quite a bit. And I agree with you. I think the stinky performances for both those guys last week pulled it back a little bit. So, yeah, I'm with you on that. Good stuff there.
So who do you got?
Alrighty, my first one for week 3. I'm going to take a corner. Big shock here. Tyrique Stevenson over 5.5 combined. This is at minus 110. Most of these are on Bet 365 at the moment. So Stevenson has crossed this line in 1 of 2 games so far this year and 5 times last season. the pattern I saw from the games where he crossed this line, at least this season, is pretty apparent. He had 7 tackles against a fantastic passing offense in Detroit, but only 3 against the Vikings, who their quarterback isn't that great at the moment. That's for sure. So yeah, this week he's up against the Cowboys, who have a fantastic passing offense and allow the most cornerback tackles so far this season at 26.5 cornerback tackles per game. That's ridiculous. And we saw pretty much the exact same thing out of this Dallas offense last year when it comes to allowing cornerback tackles. So I feel pretty good about that. Dallas is currently the 4th best team in the league for targeting their wide receivers with 49 through 2 games. They air it out early and often. We know CD and Pickens are going to get plenty of targets. Stevenson plays 100% of snaps. He averaged 4.8 combined tackles last season, even with missing a game and losing his starting role in playing time for a couple weeks after the Hail Mary debacle against Washington. So yeah, he gets close to this number any given Sunday to begin with, and in this matchup against Dallas, I think he's in a perfect situation to do so in Week 3. Thoughts on Mr. Stevenson?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think the addition of George Pickens really helps. I mean, they clearly want to invest more in their passing game, and that's a great pick for them. And we've already seen that result in terms of getting Dak more involved in the air earlier and often. And as you said, I mean, it's an amazing number for cornerbacks. We will take that, and I do believe that Dallas will have a pretty good shot of owning the time of possession here, which is also going to help. So yeah, like that one a lot. Good call.
Yep, thank you, sir. What do you got for number 2?
Number 2, I'm going to stay in Atlanta. This is actually going to kind of be the same thing. I think it's funny, Johnny. I think you and I immediately saw the same thing when these lines came out, which was that these Falcons IDPs who all had just horrific, quote unquote, horrific games, at least fantasy wise, against, in that, what was it, 12-6 or whatever that baseball score game was on Monday night against the Vikings. And so early on, we see these bets come out and they're a little bit lower than we expect. So I went with every down linebacker for the Falcons, Divine Deablo. His line came out at over 6.5 combined tackles. Again, another plus odds, which we love, plus 105 at Bet 365. Similar to Watts, his numbers were brutal in this ugly and boring matchup. And usually your every down linebacker is going to get somewhere between 7 to 9 tackles. So even if Deablo has an average game, he should be able to hit this very easily. And something I think it's a little underrated is he actually has been playing very well. Like, he really looks comfortable in this defense. He's part of the reason that this defense is doing so well. He's playing confidently. To me, he looks like he's playing fast too. He's playing aggressive. This is going to help against again, these Falcons and Panthers, they know each other so well. I agree that it will be a shootout. And I think if you're going to give me an every down linebacker who only has to hit 7 tackles and I've got plus odds, I'm going to take that every single day.
Yeah, a really good price for that, and a lower number too. So yeah, that stuck out definitely. Yep.
And who do you have for number 2 for you?
Alrighty, my number 2. This one is one that excuse me, Mike Wohlert would like. So I'm going to go Carson Schwesinger over 7.5 combined tackles. This is at minus 140 on Bet 365. So Schwesinger crossed this line in Week 1 with 8 combined tackles against a Bengals team that is within the back half of the league for allowing linebacker tackles. So that's another way of saying he got it done in a bad setup in Week 1. He got it done anyway. But only had 5 combined tackles against the Ravens and sat a little bit early due to the blowout last week. So once again, that might have pulled his line down a little bit. He does typically play every snap. Baltimore also last week did not have much success in the run game, as weird as that was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For those of you who started Derrick Henry, we all know how poor their run game was last week.
Oh, brutal, right? Absolutely. 21 attempts for 45 yards out of a Ravens rushing attack that's ungodly good most weeks. That was really weird. So, yeah, they ended up relying on the pass far more than they normally do, and that hurt the floor for Schwesinger, I think, in Week 2. This week he gets a Packers team that is just shredded with injury at wide receiver. and might be missing Tucker Kraft, who was injured in practice earlier this week and is truly questionable heading into the lineup matchup. In general, this is shaping up to be a very heavy Josh Jacobs game script, and that lines up great for Schwesinger to be involved early and often and all game long. Green Bay allows the eighth most linebacker tackles per game to this point, 17.5 per week through 2 weeks. I think that number is going to shoot up quite a bit after this week since we don't have Christian Watson, we don't have Jaden Reed. Tucker Kraft is iffy at best. Matthew Golden is not what we thought he was going to be, at least not yet. So it's really just Josh Jacobs, and I think if we get a ton of him, Schwesinger's in a great spot to go across this line in week 3. Thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I mean, I know we sound like a broken record, but this is how you shop lines. Is so Schlesinger had a poor game last week, and so if you just look at that number and whatever they use to spit out that next week's line, if you know that number being poor against the Ravens had mostly to do with the Ravens run game just getting absolutely nothing going, which nobody expected. But, this is football. Nobody expected the Dolphins to keep it close last night. So, this is football. That's how this works. So we want to take advantage of those sorts of things where on paper, it looks like this person's not going to score a lot, but we're going to, it didn't look like a bad matchup on paper, but it ended up being a bad matchup during the game. Now we flipped to this week, and he's got a plus matchup, top 10 with Green Bay. And I just think he's in a really good spot to hit this. I was expecting this number to come out at 8.5, so I was glad to see it come out at 7.5 as well. So, and minus 140. One of the things we've learned about these derivative markets is sometimes you have to pay extra juice to get these good lines. And what we've found is paying that extra juice to get the good lines over the course of the season ends up with pretty positive results. So the minus 140 doesn't scare me, not at 7.5 tackles.
Right, and there's ways around that too. You put a couple of them together to get a positive number, or there's promos like out the butt right now. It's week 3. They're still bombarding us with promos, so plenty of opportunity to get that positive. Alrighty, what do you got for number 3?
Number 3 for me, we're going to stick with the linebacker position. That's going to be Minnesota Vikings linebacker Eric Wilson. Eric Wilson took over for Blake Cashman when Cashman went down. He should start again this week, and he basically looks like he is non-existent in the database, but he played well last week. We expect him to get a full complement of snaps this week. He's playing a Bengals offense who obviously they're down to their backup quarterback, and that was quite a big blow. But I would imagine that if I'm the offensive coordinator for Cincinnati, the thing I'm going to be focusing on with Jake Browning is how can I utilize Chase Brown as much as possible? How can I utilize my safety valves, my quick hitter passes? Because remember that the Vikings secondary is always a scrambled mess for even veteran quarterbacks to figure out. Brian Flores is forever making that impossible to decipher. And so if you're going to rely on plays to develop downfield, you might be in trouble there. So my guess is they're going to lean a lot on the short passing game and the run game. All of that sets up nicely for Wilson. I think basically lack of history has made this line come out at 6.5 tackles. Again, we got another plus number at plus 105. I'm super happy to take that as well. Again, we have another presumed every down linebacker who only needs to get the bottom of the expected range for an every down linebacker. We get plus odds, and game script, I believe, will be in his favor in terms of the action sticking around the first 10 yards of the line of scrimmage. Obviously they're going to get Jamar Chase involved, but I just don't see them spending all day going vertical. I expect that to be the exception, not the rule, and all that's going to help Wilson.
Right, yeah. Browning is a fantastic backup, but he is not Joe Burrow. That's for sure. Like Higgins, I don't know if you're a Higgins shareholder, that may not be great. So
Right.
yeah, I'm with you on that.
And who's your final one?
Alrighty, my last one. I'm gonna go with a big guy. I'm gonna go with Derrick Brown over 3.5 combined tackles at minus 135 on Bet 365. So he's cleared this line in one of two games so far this season, but he averaged 6 combined tackles per game the last time we saw him play a full season. He did miss, pretty much all last season after a bad injury in week 1 of 2024. So yeah, he almost doubles this with the last time we saw him play a full season, which is wild. This week he gets a Falcons team who allows the fifth most defensive line tackles per game at 19.5 per week. That tracks as they are the fourth overall team for rushing attempts so far this season, and they were the eighth overall team for rushing attempts last season. When you got Bijan, you give Bijan the ball, right? Beyond that, Atlanta is favored by 5.5 on the road. They're predicted by many to win and win handily, or maybe not handily, but they're supposed to win. They could be salting the clock away late. And even if that's not the case, we always know we're going to get a ton of Bijan and Algier, plus the occasional scramble by Michael Penix. So Brown, I think, will be in position for these easy kind of run-stopping tackles all game long. And recent history has shown us that he can be one of the most productive defensive tackles in the league. And, missing last season, our memory is kind of short term, right? We don't remember what this guy's capable of. So I think he's in a pretty good spot. What do you think about that one?
Oh, I totally agree. Derrick Brown was one of my sleepers, and I couldn't believe he was even a sleeper heading into the season because, yeah, he missed last season, but before that, I mean, he was just a monster with producing tackles, and he's back in Carolina, which is where he did the damage. Although he didn't play last year, but he didn't like move to a new team or anything like that. He should be in the same setup. And so far, I mean, it's only 2 games so far, but one of those games we saw kind of, let's call it vintage Derrick Brown, where he will soak up those tackles. This is his game, and I totally agree. He's got a run heavy script in front of him with Bijan, whether they're in the lead or not, and they should be. I think most people assume here, as well as Atlanta has been playing, and they've got a young quarterback in Carolina, that Atlanta should win this game. And I totally agree. We have those extra snaps later in the game that should be very run heavy, but I think it's going to be run heavy kind of early on. So I do like this one as well.
Yep. Thank you, sir. All righty. Bonus bet time. Could be anything that strikes your fancy. You got anything? I got one if you need a minute, but you tell me.
No, I got one. Anytime I see an elite defensive lineman anywhere near even odds for getting a sack, I almost always take that bet. And because if I were to take that bet every week, I'd make a lot of money by the end of the year. And so I see Myles Garret to record a sack on Bet 365 is only minus 115. He had 2 sacks in the first game. Last week was a really, really tough matchup for him. He still got a sack. So I believe, obviously Green Bay's got a really good offense, and they'll be relying somewhat on the run. However, when you mentioned their star receivers being out, and if Tucker Kraft is out as well, now what you can picture is Jordan Love having to hold on to the ball a little bit longer. If they want to get Matthew Golden involved, it's really going to be likely in the deep game, right? That's how they used him so far. And I think that's kind of what they still intend to do. So I think because they will likely have fewer crossing route options, fewer tight end options, chances are they're going to have to let some plays to develop. And for me, I would bet on Myles Garret anyway, but I like the fact that the Green Bay receivers are banged up, and it means likely that their replacements will have a tougher time getting separation, or they would be the starter. And those extra couple of seconds is all. I mean, Myles Garret doesn't even need those extra seconds, but I'll take all those extra seconds for this bet. So Myles Garret to record a sack minus 115, and that's on Bet 365.
Yeah, I'm with you on this. If you can get Myles Garret at minus 115, you take it because 14 times a year, that's going to be right.
Exactly. You can't do it once. You basically have to just say, okay, I'm as long as we're near that even odds, I'm gonna bet this every week.
Yep. Nice, good stuff. Alrighty, for mine, I did exactly what you did, just the other safety. Jessie Bates over 5.5 combined tackles, minus 115. So not as good a price on Bet 365. He's also cleared this line in one of 2 games so far this season, and 9 times last season. That's 52% of the time last year he was getting past this. The setup is pretty good this week as he gets a Panthers team that allows the third most safety tackles so far this season at 19 per game. Carolina has been behind early and often to start the season and forced to try and pass their way back into each game they've played. I don't see why this week would be any different, particularly with Atlanta favored by 5.5 on the road. He probably would have cleared this line last week against Minnesota if he hadn't been going up against a quarterback that only completed 11 total passes in week 2 and could not push the ball down the field. So everyone in IDP land knows what Jessie Bates is capable of on any given Sunday. And this Sunday, he's got more than a few factors pointing towards him getting over 5.5 combined tackles. Thoughts on that one?
Well, you make an excellent point, and I think this is one of the most underrated aspects of judging players by their snap count, and which is that he only completed 11 passes, right? So, if a quarterback goes, if a quarterback completes 10 passes and has 40 incompletions, right? That's 50 snaps, but only 10 of them produced something that an IDP could make use of, right? And so when we see these really putrid numbers for a quarterback, it's important for us to note that basically guys like Watts and Bates, at least in the air, when we're considering that they're safeties, they only had 11 chances to make tackles, and then obviously they'll pick up some in the run game as well. But still, like, it is that 11 completions that killed the majority of these IDPs. That is an anomaly. So we're going to use that anomaly to get some slightly better lines than I think we would have seen had that been a little bit more of a shootout. And we want to take advantage of those anytime we can.
Yep, absolutely. Beautiful stuff, sir. I think we got some good ones this week. Hopefully they work out. So yeah, Mr. Varnes, tell the people where they can find you this year. What do you got going on this season? Any announcements for the crowd?
Yeah, sure. You can follow me on Twitter at Down with IDP. That's a great place to reach out to me. I'm also the lead IDP analyst over at fantasypoints.com. And I'm also hopping on a podcast with John Hansen, going over some of my IDP bets. And I'll be getting on Sirius XM, that morning show with Joe Dolan. Probably a couple more weeks, I'm going to start doing a weekly segment. So look for me there, but mainly just on the X machine is probably the easiest place to find me.
Yep. And it wouldn't be an IDP bets episode with you if I didn't tell the fast version of the story where I heard you on my way into work on Sirius satellite radio and was like, "Hey, I know that guy. That's pretty cool."
Yeah, I'm glad they're talking IDP occasionally on that channel, and we're going to get into some betting stuff too, so it should be a lot of fun.
Nice. Good stuff. Well, that is it for us for week 3. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel for our other shows, the flagship IDP Show podcast, the IDP After Show, the IDP Trade Show, and IDP Drafts. If you'd like to support the show, you can do so for just $5 a month over at theidpshow.com. We've got premium features for our paid supporters that we know you'll enjoy. Follow us on Twitter at the IDP Show, all one word. Thank you for listening. Good luck in week 3, everybody. And we'll catch you guys same place, same time next week. Have a good one. Take care. Bye bye.